Well, welcome everybody. My name is Charles McFarland, and as you will see from screen and slide number 1, I'm part of the Brian Tracy Focal Points Coaching franchise. We're going to do a little bit of introduction here, and we'll get going on essentially questions for core business clarity 2015. Who's Focal Point? Brian Tracy founded Focal Point. He has 40 years, as it says there, of business and sales experience, 70 books. He really wrote the book on the psychology of achievement, the psychology of selling, and things like maximum achievement. So essentially, he's spoken to hundreds of thousands of people a year. He's trained really thousands of sales people, and he's worked with the Fortune 500 companies on business transformation, turnaround, leadership strategies. And what we are as the Focal Point franchise is moving all of that into the small to medium business, the small to medium enterprise market. So a lot of what we're going to see today about asking the right questions at the right time, the beginning of 2015, is really founded on the Focal Point core clarity, the first and very first element of the foundational success of business. So on we go. And let's just talk about me. There's what you're going to describe as my theater headshot. I'm a guy who started out as a professional theater director. That means I've been basically training and coaching teams of artists, writers, production people. Then I became a performing arts executive, which meant that I was running theaters, sales, strategy, branding, operations, revenue streams as an arts producer, and then became someone who raised millions of dollars in capital funding and built 3 performing arts centers in Ottawa in the space of about 7 years. And alongside all of that, became a Shakespeare director of my own company at the same time. So the transition for me was from being a coach of creative teams into a business performer, really, and then now into business performance coaching through the Focal Point system and running something called the corporate theater, which is bringing creativity, the arts and humanities, into the leadership and executive development field. So I'm really interested in the idea of business in the arts and the arts in business. What we're going to do now is really ask some of the basic questions about core clarity. What I like to say is all the world's a stage and all business is show business. So I'm going to continue this theater analogy a little bit and say the curtain has come down on 2014. In your small business, in your enterprise, how was your show? How did the show go? What worked? What did you learn from your business, from your show, from your audiences? And what would you have done differently? We've had that chance at the end of the year to really do an appraisal and an assessment of how our show went. So on we go to 2015. And if we use the theater performance story analogy, there's really 2 sides to this. Every theater director works, first of all, with the writer. How's the script? Does the script have a dramatic arc, a beginning and a middle and end? Who's the hero of this story, the story of your business in 2015? And that's one of the questions we're going to ask. Is it you? Is it the customer? What's the situation? What's the obstacle that the hero, the protagonist, is actually facing? And then how does, as it were, the intervener, the catalyst, the shining knight in white armor, come in and basically solve the problem so that this particular play, this particular show, moves to happily ever after, problem solved. Once all of that's done, once the script is in place, then the question is it ready? Do we have all the elements ready to put it into production? So without belaboring the theater analogy too much, we're going to think about some of those questions that we're going to ask at the beginning of the script writing process. So that choosing your path between, as the slide shows here, staying in your comfort zone and really choosing a path of growth and life and success starts with core clarity, precisely knowing your business. Every great leader will look at the realities of their business. They'll ask themselves the tough questions, answer them honestly, knowing that this honest evaluation will many times mean the difference between surviving and thriving. So first question is, to ask, where is your company on the business life cycle? Where are you on your business life cycle? Everything moves in predictable cycles. Knowing what part of the cycle you're in is a prerequisite to choosing effective strategies. And just very simply, this is a foundational thing. You could be in the learning phase, you could have been through the learning phase into the growth phase, or you could have been finishing the growth phase and into the decline phase. There are traps all along the way. You could be in what we call the honeymoon trap, which is there in the learning phase. But then, as we say very often, you start off by being unconsciously incompetent. You then become consciously incompetent, and you may get to what we call the second X there, the 3 feet from gold. People who give up, and more people do, when they are actually, in the launch phase and don't know if this is going to work. But they may be in that old story, 3 feet away from striking gold in the mine. There is the founder's trap in the growth phase, which is that we think that we're experiencing a little bit of success, and this is what there is. In fact, that's a critical point in your business at which you want to be able to say, who do we need? What other capabilities do we need to take on? What is it that we need to do to move up the success curve and then into, in fact, a successful operation, which may bring its own success trap up there at the top of the growth phase. It may be that we become complacent. It may be that we already just do that decline phase and just start the stasis, if you like, of not constantly growing our phase. And if we click one more time, you can see that the way out of the decline phase is to basically pick yourself another growth phase, another business life cycle. So figuring out where you are, first of all, in your business life cycle means you're going to be able to pick which strategies you need to avoid the traps and to move up either the new growth phase or to create one afresh. Question number 2. What business are you really in? This is really one of my favorite questions, because the question that we're asking is, and you can ask your employees, you can ask your customers, what business do we think we're in? Let me give you a real world example. CPR was Canadian Pacific. When they asked the question, what business are we in, the answer was obvious. We're in the railroad business. And then you realize, in fact, well, no, does that tell us everything we need to know? Or are we in the transportation business? Are we in the people moving business, which gives you 2 opportunities? One is to actually really talk about who your competitors are and where your market is, and the opportunity to adjust and thrive by creating, in CP's case, CP trucking, CP shipping, CP air, CP rail, CP construction. They knew that they were, and CP marathon realty, they knew that they had valuable assets on either side of the track, realizing that they could integrate a business growth strategy from 1 business unit to 7 through a simple shift in thinking. So what business are we really in? Third question. What is your business's core competencies? Your company's, your core competencies, your key staff. A business succeeds to the degree to which it is aware of and capitalizes on its core competency. What one thing does your company do better than anything else? And what are your core competencies? What do you do very well? It's essential to know this. To be honest with yourself, you can't do everything, but you can do some things extremely well. What do you do better than anybody else? So identify them and do more of them. What do you do better than anything else? What should you start doing, do more of? What should you stop doing, do less of? And in terms of your team, what are the core competencies of your key staff? What does each do very well? Who are the core people in your company? Who are your keepers? If you have problem team members, now's not the time to have anyone in that isn't a major contributor at the beginning of the year and looking at your success in 2015. So deal with it and deal with it now. And what's the core competency of these most valuable employees? Understand the core competency of your staff. Maybe what we should be doing is an assessment of your people so that you can answer those questions. Question number 4. Your products and your services. What are your core activities? In the world of guerrilla marketing, experts are now saying that it isn't an 80-20 rule anymore, that 90% of your profit, or so 80% of your profit will come from 20% of your products, or that 20% of your activities will produce 80% of your profits. It's a 90-10 rule. So the idea is identify your core activities and focus on them now. What products and or services produce the most sales or the highest profit? What 10% of your products or services create or deliver 90% of your profits? If you could sell only one product, what one do you have that is the most valuable? This is basically what we sometimes call zero-sum thinking. If knowing what I now know, what would I stop doing? What would I start doing? What would I focus on as my core activity? Question number 5. Who is your core customer? In most businesses, 20% of your customers produce 80% of all sales. Who are they? The Harvard School of Business annually reports that 50% of all new revenue every year should be generated from your existing customer base. Do you really know who these people are? Do we really know who these people should be? Let's find out. Let's focus on them. Let's care for them more. Let's ask them for more business. And let's ask them for referrals. So customer profile. What are their ideal demographics? Gender, age, education, income. What sort of work do they do and at what level? What's their background or experience? And then what's the ideal customer psychographics? Interests, beliefs, values, wants, needs, desires, hopes, fears. All of this is leading you towards that ideal customer, that avatar, if you like, of where your ideal market truly is. Number 6. In marketing and sales, what are your core marketing and sales methods? We're in a completely different advertising, marketing world, the world of pull, not push, the world, in fact, that 70% of a buying decision can be taken by your customer before they even contact you or you contact them because of the power of the Internet. The research tool now has moved the power of information to the consumer's hand, not to the vendors. So millions of advertising dollars are being wasted today because that's the way we've always marketed. Marketing effectiveness has changed. Your consumers have changed. So do, again, another zero-sum, knowing what I now know analysis. If you're not getting results from your marketing, stop it now and build a new strategy that works, featuring what we call in guerrilla marketing, low cost, high impact. So do you know why your ideal customer buys your product? Do they buy on price, quality, service, on-time delivery? Do you know that the worst enemy of any relationship is unmet expectations? So why does my core customer buy my core product? What are the expectations of your customers? What's the prime motivation that your core customer has to buy what you sell? Solving problems. What does your core product do for your core customer? What's the most important benefit, because people buy benefits, not features, that your customer enjoys from using your product or service? What does your customer have to be convinced of to buy your core product from you rather than from a competitor? Why might they buy from your competitor rather than from you? Do you know that? Have you done that research? There's a factor of 3. For every new product to win, it must be better by a factor of 3. It must be faster, easier, or cheaper. It must be better in some important way or contain additional features or benefits. It must be sold more professionally, delivered more efficiently, and serviced more rapidly. So in what 3 ways is your core product or service superior to what's already available? And question number 7. What is, on the basis of all of that work, your unique selling proposition? Differentiation is key. Not just something that's compelling, but something that is unique, one of a kind. It could be the leader. It could be the people. Why would your ideal customer buy from your competition rather than from you? And now why would your ideal customer buy from you rather than from your competition? The two most important test questions. These are the questions that all statements must honestly pass before ever using the statements in any manner, including advertising or sales presentations. The questions that you must envision every time your prospects and customers asking themselves when they read or hear anything about your business or products. So what? And as Brian Tracy likes to say, everybody's favorite radio station, WIIFM, which is what's in it for me? And what level of customer satisfaction on that basis, having answered the so what, because they're thinking about their needs, not yours, they're buying from their agenda, not yours, you're answering their question, what's in it for me, and what kind of customer satisfaction do you currently deliver to that core customer? What would you like to deliver? There are 4 levels of customer satisfaction. Do you meet them, your customer's expectations? Do you exceed them? Do you delight your customer by surprising them? You're really building a loyalty relationship here. Do you amaze your customer by essentially going above and beyond, over and above? So what's your unique selling proposition? Question number 8. Really, in summary, what we're talking about here is a SWAT exercise: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So, on a piece of paper, what I think I'd recommend you do is really ask those questions. Strengths are your external strengths. What are your external strengths out there in the marketplace? What are your weaknesses? What are your internal weaknesses? We've talked about that in terms of your team, your product or service, your effectiveness, your operations. What can be truly more effective for you in 2015 than the end of 2014 and how well the show went for you last year? What are the opportunities? A scan of the marketplace. External, looking at your customer, looking at changing trends, looking at new needs, anticipating needs, and then positioning yourself, your products and services in front of that. And then threats, internal, all sorts of things in terms of the internal threat, doing an analysis of all of those 4 things. In summary, what we're really talking about here is moving from a clarity analysis into essentially the writing your script, setting goals for 2015. As you know, goals always need to be SMART. Where do I want to be? And you always write them with remembering the 3 Ps, which is they are personal, I. They are present tense, not I did or I will, but I am. Earning, I am, all those in the present tense, and then positive. It's not a negative to say, I'm going to quit smoking, but I am a non-smoker by. And so they are specific, they're measurable, they're realistic, they're timely. And the A for us in Focal Point in SMART goals is aligned with your values. So it's specific, measurable, and in Brian Tracy's words, my goals are aligned with our values, realistic and timely, or time-bound. And again, just to wrap it up, on we go. The Focal Point process is really here. We start with clarity. We move from clarity and goal setting into effectiveness. We then move into growth strategies. We then move into sales, how to be a sales superstar. And then we move into leadership. So in fact, what we call the stack, the modules, is a little bit of a template, if you like, for each business owner to be able to say, I start with clarity. Know thyself, know thy business, know your market, know your business life cycle, and on that basis, create effectiveness. How can the company be more effective? What do I stop doing? What do I do less of? On the expense and operations side, how can I become leaner and more effective? The growth strategies are, of course, revenue strategies. How do I increase marketing effectiveness? That's lead generation. That's what marketing is. How do I increase my conversion rates? That's what sales actually is. And then how do I create my customer formula, create my average sale, create my sales per period, for my gross revenue formula. So we're big and foundationally on the sales superstar thing, and then into leadership. Leadership really is, what's the purpose of my business? What are my values? What are my visions? What's my mission? And how do I turn that into the key strategies, which in essence are the sort of the loop all the way through to clarity again. So your business script for 2015 really is founded on the essential leadership questions: purpose, values, mission, vision, and which leads you into strategy. So thank you for your time. We're actually right on time. You've invested in yourself today by looking at some of these questions. I'm, of course, happy to have a dialogue with you, a conversation with you. There's my contact information right there. Let's have a great 2015. Let's write that script. Let's ask ourselves what it is that we need to put a great script, which is the starting point, into a production and a show and a performance that gets you the standing ovations that you truly deserve.